So, Steve, I've been thinking about it a lot recently. And did you know that currently at the moment, life is really going quick for some people? In fact, it's at 2x speed. Hang on, let me slow down. I was gobsmacked. By the way, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for asking. I'm very pleased to hear from you. How are you then today? Everything going all right for you?
Yeah, hang on. Just let me turn it down from 2x speed. I was gobsmacked.
Yeah, I'm good, mate.
Yeah, that's better. I was gobsmacked to find out that most people who listen to YouTube have it at ×2 speed. And then factor in TikTok and the manicness of those, because you got to get something in a minute. And I was listening to TV with my grandson, and it was some British programs, very slow paced. And then we switched on to another country's animations that was so quick that when they dropped a joke, you didn't have time to process it. And I started filming the scenes. They were less than 2 to 3 seconds per scene. Bang, 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 bang. And I thought, this ain't good for a 5-year-old. So, currently, a lot of people are burning out. They're exhausted, especially on YouTube. And I'm not surprised. Are we at risk? Probably not you and I, Steve. We're old school. We go slow. We remember Bagpuss and slow programs like that. But is life so, at the moment, so frantic, people are going to start hitting walls?
Life is incredibly frantic, and there is an expectation on everything to be done yesterday. I want it, and I want it done yesterday. And it's a totally unsustainable approach to life, because that's not the way that we have evolved as human beings to be.
No.
That's just not the way. We have a rhythm, right? We have a rhythm that goes in out. We have the circadian rhythm of sleep. We have a rhythm that mixes in with the seasons. If we were to actually, I think, and I've not tested this, so I'm speaking speculatively, if we were to actually align our living with the way the seasons flow, that our living would probably be better for us.
Do you mean having the foods we have, or?
So you eat the food that the earth produces as the earth produces it. So you buy seasonal food and you eat seasonal food. So you don't eat stuff which is not seasonal.
That'll be difficult in some places.
But I'm just saying, I think that there is something in this.
Yeah.
That when the sun begins to set, you go to bed and you settle down.
That I do agree with.
That when the sun rises, you get up and start your day, and you start to build your living in keeping with the pattern and the flow of the earth. I think that there would be something. It'd be an interesting experiment. It's not something I can do because, like you, I work all the hours that God sends. But I think it'd be a really interesting experiment. One of the things that I have found really nice now that I don't have to sort of get up so early and jump in a car and battle through commuting traffic is that I don't ever set my alarm clock now. Never set it. Even when I know I've got to be up, I never set it. Because I know that as the sun comes in, or as the light comes into my room, I will wake up. I'm awake half the night anyway, but you know what I mean? I'll be able to get up because it's now daylight. And I think if you could actually live your life, that you get your rhythm of your body in the rhythm of the earth, in as much as you possibly can. There's got to be something healthy about that, I reckon.
Incredibly healthy. You notice I'm not wearing a watch. I'm holding up my hands.
Yeah.
Never wear a watch because in the 90s, in publishing, I always had to clock watch, make sure I was getting a meeting, and it was just frying my brain. It's like a straitjacket.
And in the 80s, when we were serving together, you never wore a watch so that you'd use it as an excuse for never turning up on watch properly.
Absolutely. I went with the rhythm of the day,
Rhythm of the day, yeah.
And also...
You're ahead of your game, mate.
That's right. I was way ahead. I was a trendsetter. And I found out, one of the biggest problems that we have as humans, think about it this way. When you talked about the circadian rhythm, but there's also the energy that we can get from the earth. But we stop ourselves touching the earth. We wear shoes, we wear rubber. We very rarely kick off our shoes and just walk barefooted on grass. That really is so beneficial. Most people, if they think about it, from the moment they get out of bed to the moment they get back into bed, they never touch the earth. We were designed to be connected to the earth. So we don't even do that. We artificially get up in the dark in some countries. We go to work in semi-darkness. We come home in semi-darkness. I know this because I started to suffer from SAD in Plymouth. It's one of the reasons I wanted to get away from that climate and that parallel latitude where the sun was always low half of the year. Well, we can't help that, but we could make it so that I don't have to go to work in darkness. I could probably see some sunlight at some point. So the whole rhythm of the day, the working day, this artificial 8 hours, it's bullshit. And it's taken us from our roots. And right now we have less time off than people did in the medieval era. And yet when we look back, we see them as chattels and slaves and miserable. I don't think they were.
No, and a lot of them were outside working in the environment, so they were really connected to their rural environment. They were connected to the ground. They were connected to the land. And I am absolutely convinced that there is something significantly missing from the lives that we live today in terms of the speed in which we live it, in terms of the lack of connection with the rhythm of the earth, in terms of the lack of connection that we have with the land. And I totally agree with your point about grounding yourself on the earth, that, kick your forbidden shoes and socks off and actually go and walk across your grass. Stand there and just rub your toes into the grass and just feel it come up between your toes. And there is something really positive about that. There is something really healthy about that. Now, you can get all mystical about it if you want to, but even if you don't do that, it's a good thing. It's a really beneficial, positive, recharging thing, even if you don't see any other sort of spiritual connection to it.
You raised inadvertently an interesting point about that as well, and I'm not pointing any fingers here at faith or religion, but a lot of stuff that is seen airy-fairy, mystical, is often what we say, and they are correct. They are mystical, but some people imply it as being a negative. It's also like people forget the power of words. Words were considered magical. Why do you think we use the word spelling when we write? Because you're casting spells with words. And yet we try and limit our language as though we are trying to be made into lesser beasts. Our language is dumbed down. People now don't read so much, so they're not even becoming exposed to new words or new ways of using words. Everything is done to stop us being our natural rhythmic selves and something else. And for good or bad, I'm beginning to think it's planned. It's like it's so consistent and has been for about 150 years that we are now starting to see the problems. Increased morbidity, increased depression. Yet we're in a period when we're supposed to have everything, aren't we? Everything that we ever wished for.
And you're absolutely right, in my opinion. We have been dumbed down into imbecility by the governments around us and by the societies that have grown up around us and that have been in play for the last 100, 150 years, maybe 200 years. And I don't think that those in power actually want thinking people who are not in power. They want people who are not in power to just do. It feels to me that there's an expectation that you're just going to be like a worker ant. You're just going to go out there, you're going to do the work, you're going to bring the food into the ant's nest, and you're going to make sure that everything's all right there. But there's nothing outside of that. So you work, you then die, you're then replaced. And I just am not sure that is the way to live life. And having spent a very long time, 4 decades, working my little socks off, and working incredibly long hours for 4 decades, and having a couple of years now out of that to reflect, I think to myself, you know what? I got that very wrong. Not undermining the good work that people that I served with and worked with did. There was some very good work that was done. But ultimately, in the long run, not enough time for my wife, not enough time for my family, not enough time for my children, not enough time for me to rest, to recuperate, to recharge. And you end up at the age that I've now sort of got to where you think, flipping heck, man, I'm knackered. And I long for moments where I can just sit with a book and put my feet up and read, or where I can just go for a walk and stop and smell the roses, we used to say, didn't we? You need to stop and smell the roses, mate. And that's something that we need to do. We need to take time to stop, smell the roses, quite literally sometimes.
In many ways, we've been made. I hate that saying. In many ways, you hear it a lot in history. I'll rephrase it. We have become drones. And I watched a video. We may have talked about it. I'm sure we have, about Common Core, which is similar to the national curriculum in the UK and New Zealand. And he was brought into the States. And it's been gone long enough now to see the results. And the results is some people are getting to university and can't read books. Cornell University, I think, highlighted it. People going to professors and saying, oh, you've got us to read this book and we can't do it. I can't go to the end. I'm not used to it. So what is education for then? It's created a group of, generation of people that can pass an exam. They could account for how much money was taken in a till and so on.
Yeah.
But what's been stripped is the old humanities, the topics that make you question. And it's almost as though it's universal in the English-speaking world, and it's probably worldwide. Why would they strip those things away? Why only focus on science and maths to the point of almost paranoia? And they sold it as, well, we need to keep up because it's GDP and we've got to keep on top of our competitors. Yeah, but also the fact that you're not thinking fully now. And people don't question. They just accept. And that's a generalization, a terrible generalization. There are people out there that don't do that. But it's almost as though that's what they're trying to do.
Well, I would say that modern education is no longer education. It's no longer about education. It's about indoctrination. You are being indoctrinated to think in a certain way, and that way must conform with the state, with society. You're not there to actually be a critical thinker. You're not there to ask the right questions. A book I read by C.S. Lewis, it was, might have been Mere Christianity, not sure, can't remember. But he said that the task of the modern educator is not to cut down jungles, but to irrigate deserts.
Yes.
And that's what we should be doing. We should be looking at that vast landscape out there that is the potential fertile ground of young minds. And we should be looking to irrigate those deserts, not to cut stuff back and prune them up and chop them down, but to irrigate those deserts, to actually encourage people to sprout and to grow. And I just don't think we do that.
Well, it requires time and a slow pace.
Which we don't have,
and it
right?
seems, that's what definitely we're at the moment. It's almost as though no one's got time for anything apart from malarkey. You've said you've seen this in your own cafe, where people are filming themselves eating. Okay, I'm seeing it all the time in the shop where I work. But what they're not doing is they're not taking a brief moment to consider or thinking. It's all ding, 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 ding. And they're doing it to be edited for some short. Everything boils down to 1 minute, I'm on to the next. And it's a shame. You're never going to learn the stuff that we talked about if you're going at that pace.
I agree. And I do think that we need to try and slow people down. We need to encourage people to slow down. But you were talking that when we kicked this off, you were talking about the 2 times speed that people watch stuff on YouTube or the TikTok, and you talked about the cartoons that your young grandson Daniel was watching and how fast they are. Everything is so fast, and what that does is it overstimulates the brain. Completely overstimulates the brain, so that your brain doesn't switch off, and it doesn't rest, and it doesn't relax, and it doesn't actually give your whatever other part of your brain it is to just kick into gear and to then start to process everything that's been going on for the day, because it's overstimulated, it's overactive the whole time. And so what we put through our eye portals is incredibly important.
But I also think it means you can't process anything. It just becomes white noise.
Well, it does. And you and I know all about that, right? Sat there on the bridge with one earphone on, one earphone off, and you've got the constant...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's no good for you. It's no good for you. And I think that the more that you can encourage people to actually just stop, breathe a little bit, go for a walk, stretch your legs. I used to do yoga years ago, and I would still do it now. I've just not found anywhere to do it. But I found it incredibly useful, particularly in the type of world that I was in, that once a week I'd go out and I'd do this yoga lesson. And you know what, mate? There were times where I fell asleep on that floor. when I was doing the sort of the deep breathing, and I was just following the pattern of my breathing, and I'd just nod off. Next thing I know, the instructor sort of gently sort of rocking my shoulder saying, "Steve, we finished, mate." And I'm, "Oh, sorry, mate. So I fell asleep." Yeah, that's okay. That's good. Being able to do that and bring yourself into a sense of calm, peace, move into a sedentary space where you can actually regroup, regather. I think it's a great thing.
I think actually things are changing. I read recently, in about the last 2 weeks, Gen Z, they were interviewed, admittedly in New York. A study of 18 to 24-year-olds found that 64% of them have taken at some point what they call a temporary break from social media, and a third have broken away completely. They're limiting their time on social media, and they call it monk mode.
Oh, really?
which is great.
Hilarious.
And they're increasingly moving away from Twitch and Discord. Now, I think the key there is monk mode. I remember watching a program. It was filmed in the UK, and we saw it here in New Zealand, probably 15 years ago. And it took disaffected adults. It was like a reality program, and it followed them when they went to stay in a monastery. And they couldn't talk for a certain amount of time. They could talk to somebody at after Vespers in the evening, have a meal. And it tracked them how they were over the period in which they went there. And universally, every single one came out a different person. Much more relaxed, able to think and to cope and to deal with pressures. And a lot of them, I don't know the end result, they may have gone back into normal life and ended up falling back into that trap, but I don't think they probably would have.
And this is a big trap to fall back into, mate. I even now, as I say, I've really alluded to my working life, and this part of my working life that I'm involved in now, I could very easily, and we spoke about this off camera off a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? I could very easily get back into working 10, 12 hours every day in the job I'm in every single day of the week. And I don't want to do that. And I'm being very as protective as I can be, and trying more and more to dial myself back to say, no, I'm not playing this game. I've been on this hamster wheel for a long time. I've got off it. I don't want to get back on it to run it like I used to. And I think that is a really healthy thing to do. Whether it benefits me in the long term, who knows? But I think if you can learn it as an early discipline in life, then it will benefit you going through to your longer life. Sometimes you can get a bit late to learn these lessons, can't you?
Yes, but I think although we're late, we're ideal because we knew a time before all these social pressures of artificially made social pressure. I mean, I can't get the word pressures out. Think of Facebook. I remember when we moved to New Zealand, Facebook hadn't really kicked off. But when we got to New Zealand, about 5 or so years into teaching, suddenly they wanted all the teachers to connect with kids on Facebook. And I thought, no, why would I want to do that? But it was a thing. It was a way of connecting with youth. And I remember conversations about how many friends have you got? How many friends have you got on Facebook? And I thought, they're not friends. We continually take words with meaning and we rip them apart to the point they don't mean anything. Oh, I've got thousands of friends. No, you haven't. You've probably got a handful, if that. It just devalues everything all the time. This search for validation, likes, hits.
Very narcissistic indeed. There's 8 billion people on this planet, and there's only probably 9 people who would be significantly affected if I wasn't here.
Who would that be?
9 people. Various family members. 9 people, mate. That's it. And when you start to look at that in the sobering light of day, 9 billion people, 8 billion people, there's only 9 folk that would probably really miss you if you weren't here. You think to yourself, yeah, all those Facebook friends, all of those followers, all of those influencers, all of that crap that we all strive to get. And as you have said before, we're part of the problem because we're using this medium to have these conversations. But you have to use what you've got, right? If I had an opportunity and I didn't need a lot of this IT to do the things that I do from a work perspective, I wouldn't be on it. I just wouldn't be on it. I would ditch it. but I find it really useful from a work perspective, and that's how I tend to use it now. Not from a social perspective, but from a work perspective.
That's the thing. One thing it has gifted us, we know this, when we were in the middle of the Indian Ocean, to spend 10 minutes calling your loved ones on a phone cost you a fortune.
Total.
And the quality was never great. And you had to plan it. They had to know that you're going to phone and be ready, blah, blah, blah.
Port Z Radio, Port Z Radio.
That's right. But now we've got Messenger. It costs you nothing. We could be talking for 64 hours non-stop and we wouldn't get charged. It's just unbelievable. That is good about it.
Excellent.
But
yeah, so
nothing else.
So, there are the positives. And I think that what you have to do is try and discern what it is that you need, and then not what the wilfing bit of it, what was I looking for bit of it. You pick up your phone and you look at something, and then all of a sudden you're looking down some rabbit hole somewhere else. And it's that wilf moment. What was I looking for? Can't even remember I picked this thing up. You don't go wilfing.
I'm just going to do a little experiment. And of course, it's probably the wrong thing. No, it's not really showing it. I'm on YouTube, and it's just the kind of crap that they push forward. For instance, back in 2016, I was hooked to the internet because of Trump. It was like a drug. I couldn't get away with it. It was like following some kind of Greek theatre. Every time I was on the YouTube, everything came up about, this is a disaster, this blah, 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 both sides. And it's like, oh, Jesus Christ. I wouldn't mind if social media, every time I went on, it was somebody saying, I found a cure for eye cancer. Oh, this is how I'm going to help save leopards. No, it's always serious, really serious or miserable.
It is, because it's bad news sells. As it's all about that clickbait, isn't it? That's how money's made, and advertisers get to make their money, and all of that sort of thing. But we did a few things, didn't we, on good news stories?
They didn't do it.
And
no one was interested.
No one's interested. Half the stuff that we talk about, people aren't interested. And you go, oh, well, we'll still talk about it. Maybe one day somebody will be, or our kids might be. But people just are not interested in so much other than themselves. Seems that way anyway.
And also the big thing is, don't forget, it's the speed. It's big
phenomenal.
Things now is TikTok.
Yeah.
Shorts. I mean, a minute. Although the big thing supposedly is a 3-minute short. That's a laugh, isn't it? At least they're now elongating the time period to 3 minutes.
Yeah, but 3 minutes, man, for goodness sake.
I take longer going to the toilet.
I tell you what, so do I. I really enjoy, and I guess this is just the way that you're wired, the way I'm wired. I enjoy listening to people for hours if I find them engaging, and I will listen to certain individuals speak, and I'll listen to what they've got to say, even if I don't agree with them. And in fact, I like listening to people that I don't agree with, that I have a different worldview to, because it challenges me to go, why don't I like what you're saying?
You're not in an echo chamber then, Steve?
No, I try not to be. I seriously try not to be. Really try not to be. Because that's too easy, right? If you're just talking to somebody or listening to somebody who's just repeating back to you everything you think, they're a great person, they agree with everything I think. No, that's not the way it should be. It's like when I preach on a Sunday, I don't preach for people to agree with me. I preach for people to wrestle with what I say, chew on it. If they don't agree with me, don't agree with me.
But could you imagine a point in time where churches start doing sermons of about a minute?
Mate, I have been to a church where the pastor walked in and he greeted everybody and he said, guys, I've not had chance to do much for this morning, so I'm just going to pop a DVD on. And I sat there and I thought, are you kidding me? You've got one job, which is to prepare a message for your congregants on a Sunday. One job. And you haven't had time, mate. So it would never surprise me if a pastor walks in, they have 40 minutes of worship with loud music, with theologically dubious lyrics, and then put a TikTok on for 3 minutes or a YouTube on for 3 minutes. That wouldn't surprise me. That'd never surprise me.
Well, potentially that's where it's going to go.
And people would love it.
The congregants couldn't focus for more than 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's why my poor lot, I make them sit there for at least 40.
Well, it's good for them, Steve.
It's good for the soul, man. It's good for the soul.
Yeah,
soul
that's
food.
right.
Soul food. That's what it is.
So it is. I don't know if the word is disappointing. I'm not disappointed. I'm not surprised, but I'm not disappointed that people can't focus or don't want to focus. It's this perennial wanting a TV drama show around them, it seems to me. And a lot of it is TikTok, and people want to become famous and make money, and therefore they have to do... If it was a requirement to be 10 minutes, they'd all make 10-minute videos, but they're all making 1 to 3 because that's what it is. And that's the least amount of effort to get up. And of course, then they can put on 3 or 4 a day and get more hits and da-da-da-da. It's just the run to be known and seen. I get it. I think it's down to us, or the powers that be, to say, this is having an adverse effect on people. We've got to rein this in. And they have talked about that in the States, about banning it.
Yeah, and I don't even know that banning it is the right thing to do. I think that the antidote to it is to encourage people to ask questions and think. The antidote is to get people to actually be better educated, not indoctrinated. That's the antidote to all of this.
You think that's going to happen?
I don't think it's going to happen because I don't think society wants it as a whole. You know, we're an instant fix society. I was talking to a lady today, right, who has got some challenges, and I've spoken to her quite a lot. And I said to her, what you need to do is you need to focus your thinking. I said, the way that you will be transformed is by the renewing of your mind. The way that you think about things will start to direct your path for you. And so you need to take hold of this crap and you need to put it to one side. You need to start channeling your thinking in a different way. I said, now that's hard work, and it's a discipline, and it's a lifetime of work, and there's no magic pill. And she's like, yeah, but I want the magic pill. I said, there's no magic pill, mate. There's no magic. Nobody's going to suddenly lay their hands on you and the next day it's going to be right. I said, there are occasions when God will do some very strange things in a very strange way, and things can be very dramatic for somebody. But for most people, particularly in the area that we're talking about with you, for most people, you need to start to develop disciplines in your life, and you need to start changing the way that you think, and you need to start putting in practices that are going to help you every single day, and you're going to have to do it every single day. No quick fix. We live in a society where everything is promised with a quick fix. You want to lose weight? We need a weight loss pill. You want to stop smoking? You need to take some sort of substitute. You want to stop eating this crap food? Then we'll give you this other crap food to eat. You know, everything is about an instant hit, instant gratification, instant result. That's just not life. But we're being conned into believing that it is. And it's not true. And so when people find out it's not true, they get depressed, they get upset, they lose the plot, they get stressed, they get down in the mouth. Because people haven't been honest with them to start with.
There's quite a few people now trying to slow down. And of course, you've got to be careful because there's a lot of people out there would tell them how to do it. And you can't trust everyone. But it's interesting that a lot of it seems to be savor the moments that you have, disconnect from technology if you can, set boundaries, don't go beyond them. Say you're only going to have this amount of time doing it daily. And practice mindfulness. Now, that could be anything. I think that mindfulness has got this kind of airy-fairy thing connected to it. But no, it's just basically pay attention to what's happening, what you're reading, how you're thinking. It's been there for a long time. And I wonder if we're going to see a growth of that.
There is nothing new under the sun, Mark. What has been will one day be again, and we will see the world go round. So we are living. You and I have lived in probably a hinge era, where we've seen one side of the hinge. We've now sit in the centre, and we're going to see the other side of the hinge. We're going to just see it flip back round, I think. So I think that we will start to see towards the last few decades of our life things slowly turning back. Because people are realising that this doesn't pay. You know, this lifestyle, this world doesn't give you anything like this. there's got to be more. You're seeing a huge rise of people who are searching for something outside of the material now, in whatever faith position that they choose to try and find that. Loads of people. Even Sam Harris, that great one of the four
neuroscientists,
one of the four horsemen of the atheist apocalypse. With Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens, and who was it? Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, and who's the other one? One more.
Oh, good question.
Anyway, even Sam Harris, he is, while he's certainly not a theist or a deist in any sense of the imagination, what he started to do is he started to see
Daniel Dennett,
that's him. So what he started to see is the value of meditation.
Yes,
and it has changed him. Now he's still a rabid atheist in many respects, bless him, but he's changing his worldview, because I guess the material world just doesn't deliver in the way that it could.
No, it doesn't. And I'm interested personally to see if people are starting to switch off and they are disconnecting from the likes of X or whatever they were hugged to before. I wonder what the effect is that going to be, because half of the clownosphere relies on getting into people's life and getting their attention. If people are switching that off, they're going to start getting desperate to get our attention. And I wonder how they're going to react. You'll know if that is the case when that starts to happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of ways that governments and states get your attention. There's all sorts of things that happen that cause attention to be grabbed. And we'll wait and see what that looks like in the future. But yeah, I would encourage people, exactly as you outlined, turn off your phone, limit your screen time, put some boundaries in place, be disciplined in your life. Actually think about what it is you want to do the next day, the night before, so that the night before tomorrow, you actually plan what you're planning to do tomorrow, so that when you wake up in the morning, you just don't wake up in a well, what should I do today? Just sling my flipping feet out of bed and go trudge along. Go, no, I know what I'm doing today because I planned it last night. So, today begins last night. And plan what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, and build stuff into your life as best as you can for rest and recuperation. It's not lazy, but trying to overcome that mindset, which is my mindset, which is if I'm not busy, I'm not achieving anything. Yeah, that's not true. You got to stop listening to that.
Oh well, interesting then. So we do agree we need to slow down.
We agree. Slow down, mate. As Leonard Cohen says, he don't like it fast.
No, there's wisdom in the old singers, I tell you. All right then, boy.
All right, fella. Later.
I'm going to switch this off and I'm going to have a mindful rest.
You do that. You well deserved.
I do. Take care.
Wait.